Excited to get our event started in this good way.
Creator Great Spirit, as we gather here together today with all of you for Mother Earth, we say thank you. Thank you for each one present, taking part in this gathering. Creator Great Spirit, thank you for our breath of life, the land we stand on, the air we breathe, the water we drink. Creator Great Spirit, we thank you for family and friends. We thank you for champions of Mother Earth, for the work, dedication, and commitment to help refresh, restore, and heal our Mother Earth. Mother Earth, our planet home, whom without we cannot live. Creator Great Spirit, we are thankful and grateful to our ancestors who once were here, who left us teachings to look after our body, mind, and spirit, to look after one another with compassion, love, understanding, kindness, and care. Teachings to look after Mother Earth with respect, to sustain the lands, the forests, the rivers and oceans, the mountains, the dwelling places of all creatures, to live in harmony, to thrive, the four-legged, the water dwellers, the winged ones, the crawlers. Creator Great Spirit, help us each day to live the good way of peace and harmony with Mother Earth, and to all the mothers, a very happy Mother's Day. Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Shirley, for that beautiful and powerful prayer to Mother Earth. And thank you, Brother Rick. Now I'd like to welcome Brother Rick Peter, our wonderful keynote speaker here today. Perfect, that would be great. Thank you so much.
This is a test. Do I need the mic? Siam Chalja, Siam Laslanian as White Cut, Hodgkin Tip, Newsflation Tip, my brothers and sisters, welcoming each and every one of you to this beautiful home. In our language, we have to use so many different words. Into this fourth language, it is a lot easier for this beautiful home, for which this home is built in the Coastal Salish territory, specifically the Esquimalt Lakota Nation, for which our school is built on. With our school and the school district, the three different nations that we work with. We work with the Chinook Nation, Beecher Bay, Sauk Nation, Sioux, and our Nuu-Chah-Nulth brothers and sisters to the west, the Pacheedaht Nation. We thank them all of those nations, for allowing us to be on these beautiful lands, to live, learn, prosper, share, and grow together as one. In our language, as we say, Nat Amat Shkwal, which is one body, one mind, and one spirit. We are all working together as one. Somebody falters and falls, we all stop and help pick them up and bring them forward. So before we carry on, aside from welcoming each and every one of you, brothers and sisters, to this territory, just want to sing a song that goes along with my sister's beautiful prayer. And this is for all of you, for all of the words that will be coming out today, so that the words come from here, from your heart, and sharing, and opening your coon and listening to each other's words, thinking about our future generations and what we want to leave for them. So this is our prayer song in my culture. And it's not only for today, but it is also for all of you beautiful mothers on Mother's Day. Plako, Kelagasa, Marcy, Merci, Sheshe, Doije, Aligato, Merci beaucoup, Dankevel, Tutsins, Hawa, Gracias, Dankevel, Danka, Tutsins, Shalamat, and, oh yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brother Rick, for that wonderful and powerful prayer song. That was amazing, and I think that your wise words.
This year, they're working on it now. So many of these things are there. There's lots moving forward. Going to City Hall, I'm always lifted up by the building full of talented, smart, well-educated people that are moving in the right direction. But staff need the direction from policymakers, us, and governance, and the people drive that. So to reinforce what Mary had to say, and then Colin too, in the matter of the labeling. I think we have ingredients labeling. I can remember vaguely when that started to happen in my childhood, and the dietary, nutrition labeling that came along, and that is a considerable expense. However, I think that's not a good excuse. We need to have labeling for everything. If you had to read the label on every liter of gasoline you put in your car, you might consider not buying it anymore. It's a toxic chemical, and we're allowed to use it freely, and these big tanker trucks drive down our road. What's the risk? And those labels should just include the raw material, the cost of processing it and delivering it, and then the delivery of it, what it's for, and then the life cycle element to it, how long it lasts, what the effects of those elements are on the climate. I think back to a song from my youth once again of, give peace a chance, but maybe we should give Earth a chance.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, David. And now, I wonder if I can get a time check from anybody right now.
1:52.
Okay, cool. All right, I'd like to invite, before we end here, any youth in the audience to ask a question. I think we have a couple planned. Oh, before the audience. Got it. Okay. Thank you. Got it. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's ask one more of these questions here from the high school students that were submitted. I think how are you as municipalities preparing for the effects of climate change, such as heat domes? Anybody can start with that?
I'm super excited about our new Fire Smart coordinator, and we got a big grant for that in Langford, so now we're really doing a lot of good work, and one thing's leading to another in such a positive way. So this one staff person now it's got the mandate to go out to the community. So then she did a bunch of removing of fuel, and then she's finding out, okay, we got to do a lot of wood chipping. Oh my gosh, these people haven't had any public works in Langford for however many decades, right? So we don't have some of the services in our municipality, but we need to start. And so we're having the conversation about how do we fire smart, and oh well, it's not that easy to start a garbage service, but maybe we could at least do yard waste. Trying to find our ways to move forward in a positive way. So there's grant funding that really then we can leverage to do a lot more with. So that's just one example. So fire smarting is actually a really important way to prepare for it's fire season. And as a water commission, which I know some others here are also on water commissions, but we need to do a lot of fire smarting of the watershed, and we're also looking at misting stations. So that's coming to Langford. So yeah, all the things that we might have seen in other municipalities, I think we need to take all those good ideas and it's, for equity, we need to bring those to our communities and make sure that there is a way for people to cool down. And we need to work on, as we're developing, protecting our tree canopy to keep us cool. So we've got to be thinking short term, get that misting station, medium term, probably be a fire, we've got to prepare, and then long term, we need that tree canopy. So just some examples.
Yeah, something that Bureau just recently approved actually was we went out with a request for proposal on our tree canopy strategy, and as part of that we are hoping that the consultant will come back telling us about what kind of trees we should be using to make that are more drought resistant, where should we place them to prevent heat islands. And the other thing that going forward I'm really hoping our council will do is to look at the CRD's heat mapping and integrate that when we do our OCP, our official community plan, so that when we're looking at development, we need to say, okay, well, where do we need to protect the trees to prevent, again, these heat spots. So yeah, those are two things that we're doing.
I could mention in Metchosin, our fire department is very active in the issue of addressing emergency situations. and things like heat domes or fire. We also have an active non-governmental organization, a seniors center, and they're involved with the fire department identifying vulnerable people in the community or people who would have a difficult time in a difficult climate situation, so that they can be contacted and given assistance as needed. Also in Metchosin, some years back, was organized community groups. They're called pods. So people are organized in neighborhoods with neighborhood lists that know one another and share information about the circumstances, and in the event of a difficult circumstance, the pods would activate in terms of support amongst ourselves.
Still on, yes. I'm thinking retrofit. So one of the biggest benefits for dollars spent in Colwood, because we have thousands of 60s, 70s, 80s built homes that could benefit from, for two reasons, energy efficiency, but also aging. We have septic tanks, older windows, small, thinner walls, less insulation, older heating systems, etc. So that a retrofit home, it can be expensive, it can be complicated, and there's sort of a list of priorities where your dollar is best spent. So an energy audit starts. CRD's got the energy navigator site. You can go there. It's a pretty skookum setup, and you can follow through. Colwood's talking, and this is a project I think would be exciting if we could buy a home and retrofit it, gather all the data. You can imagine there's a huge amount that can be gathered, and then presumably sell it at the end to recoup a lot of those costs. And then for very little expense, we could end up with this incredible database to allow or to assist other citizens to retrofit their older homes in an efficient way. So your dollar is at least spent efficiently. And that's one element I think would work, a project that would work very well. Heat pumps and solar panels, electric cars, there's many things you can do, but it's good to know where your dollar is best spent, and it's not always an easy answer to find.
Thank you so much. I would now like to invite, I think we had some high school volunteers that would like to come up and ask a question. Awesome, okay. You can all come on up, and I guess I'll give you my mic here. All right, so if you want to introduce yourself or be anonymous, either way, and then ask your question.
Hey, I'm Winston. I was wondering how, local youth, especially younger kids, could help it with reduce the impacts of everything that's going on. Anyone can answer. Is no one specific?
Yeah, that's a tough question actually, because I always think of the youth probably wrongly in sort of high school, up to high school. For me, coming out of high school and up to about mid-20s was a tough time in my life and how to fit in. But I would suggest that that's kind of the age group. But I think there needs to be programming. City Colwood works with the Green Team. We do a recent weed pull and set up. There's been 2 or 3 events lately, just around here, Murray's Pond and up by the high school where the student classes come out and pull out, and also down in Lagoon West Park there was an event. So that's one particular program that we support that the youth get involved in, and I always have a lot of fun meeting them. But I think there needs to be something more in depth. And of course, you always think of education, but in terms of actually working on stuff. There's now a youth program over at the Western Parks and Rec Center. There's a lot of it's around, I think, recreation and leisure, but perhaps there's programming that could happen there in that regard.
Yeah, just on the way by here. The Green Team is a great example of an organization that can get everybody from the community together to do invasive species removal, and it's a way they can get into the schools and advertise their event because they're your friendly neighborhood Green Team, and then I can show up and be like, hey, so happy to work with you, and you can have families come out there and things like community gardens. I'm really excited about, like getting all ages and abilities out there. So there's litter pickups and those kind of events in the community where it might just seem like, okay, it's not that going to make that big a difference. But I think that's how you get kids excited about it, and then they can talk to different people and meet the different people from different organizations can all gather around these types of events in the community. So hopefully, we don't have a community garden yet in Langford, but we're working on it. Colin is the way ahead there, so good job, Colin. So yeah, it just takes that energy of getting it started, and I think other groups like Nature's Kids Club, I used to be with my kids, they just become naturally like stewards of the land. So if we could have that be more how people spend their free time instead of social media, that would be great.
Climate is such a big topic. You know, I would recommend people to choose one area that they're really interested in and attend the council meetings when you see it on the agenda. I think, and it's really, I said before, not many times do I see youth or kids in the audience, but there's been twice that I can recall, and those were really powerful for us in making our decision. One was school crossing guards, and the other was bears, and the garbage that were attracting bears. But so yeah, I really encourage any youth here to attend council meetings and speak up on the topics that they're most interested in.
And thanks for the question. And it's a real puzzle to me to think about what makes sense. I would like young people to enjoy their lives and not be so concerned about the future that we're heading towards, but I recognize that's a bit out of place these days. So my involvement with youth has been organizing climate marches. We kind of fell away during the COVID time for the reasons of the pandemic, but it seems to me that getting on the streets again is needed. And you'll know of Fridays for the Future, and the idea of gathering and basically getting your voices heard, so people know that can't turn away from the problem. We still have a good percentage of people who are climate deniers, people who don't think that there's a problem, or people who want to delay action. And I think the voice of youth is so important. And I'm back to it, going to the streets. Maybe we'll have a word after the event today, we can chat about that.
Yes, to maybe go to council meetings if that's your thing, to sit through all that. There's green teams, there's a place, or many schools, I've been running one for Row Bay, planting indigenous plants, trying to build an area of meadow, and maybe create your own projects around the community that inspire other students to take more action themselves. If you feel safe enough, maybe safe enough is one word, but after transportation on a lot of the roads, but a lot of the infrastructure does need to be there for people to actually feel safe to be biking and walking around. But if you're in a convenient or safe enough position, maybe take that on, or carpool, take the school bus. I think there's many things you can do the research into, their own maybe more of a niche for what they want to be passionate about, because it's kind of hard to hit everything at once, but maybe hitting one or two things and hitting that hard to really create the impact of that.
I'd just like to point out that if you're out at the end of the play fields, where the path comes down, on the west side of the property, there's an indigenous plant garden. Gary Colin was instrumental in getting that going. Yes. He's got too modest to mention it, but he did it.
My name is Rain Hermosa, and I'm a grade 11 student here. And I think I sent a question into the Google form I got somewhere. But I'll just go over it again. I wrote a question about how you plan to use transit as a way of combating climate change, and we've already talked about it a bit with free passes, but I'd love to hear more. And the things I think about are encouraging more people to use it, and besides free passes, it could also mean the frequency of it, and also in letting people know and how much say you have in those transit decisions. I think that's it.
That's a great question. I'm sure we all have something to say. I'll just start off with, even though mentioning that youth passes would be helpful, also electric buses, school buses should be electric, and I don't know how quickly they'll get the funding for that, so maybe that's something we could combine ideas. Have student march, a place that needs a sidewalk or bike lane, and say we demand electric buses at the school. But, you know, like getting it all together so that we've got, the transit piece is so important for all users. So when I hear from the accessibility community, we need to make sure that the buses are working for seniors or people with mobility issues, that we don't want them to feel like they're going to get run over in the bike lane. So we really have to plan carefully around how do we have the transit stops be effective, how do we get the more transit when there's not enough bus drivers or there's not enough mechanics. So it needs, again, that I think public pressure to demand from the province, because they control BC Transit, to say we want training for bus drivers and that kind of thing. So yeah, lots of pieces to the puzzle. I'm sure other councillors also have comments.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Free transit for sure makes a lot of sense. I think right now our needs relate to rapid buses and dedicated bus lanes, so that buses can move. We're in the West Shore, so buses can move faster than the cars to get downtown. I think that would do a lot to change the formula. The other current issue in transit that I'm aware of is getting a dedicated bus lane on Mackenzie, so that we've got a straight line into the university to move young people and people at university, the employees, as quickly as possible along that corridor. And I guess I would say have the province stop investing in major public works to enlarge the highway system. I think it's a real, it's backwards thinking at this time. Take that money, put it into transit.
Yes, transit is very important because it moves far more people than one person in their big SUV. But a huge part of it is also land use, because when you have like single family suburbia, as far as I can see, a shopping mall at the other end, it's like you really want to be stuck in transit in that bus. But compared to having dense mixed-use zoning, then people can get around far quicker and then perhaps use transit or just walk or cycle. So a huge part of it does come down to land use in official community plans, and then defining more of the mixed-use zoning, because as our cities densify, we can't be stuck trying to build a car-dependent city, but move towards walkable, cyclable ones, so that when we take transit, we're not stuck in traffic with cars, and they're just trying to go across sheer distances when something could have been far more localized.
Right, so I've recently, I think it was a CBC radio podcast or interview with a fellow from Kingston, Ontario, and his program is called Get on the Bus. And he persuaded the powers that be to give grade 9 students free passes 24/7, 365 days a year. And the next year he gave them to grade 9 and 10 and built it up so that all the high school students, I don't know if it went into university age, had free bus passes, hundreds of thousands of increased trips. And oddly enough, the adults started to come and the ridership grew with that as well. He mentioned a level, I mentioned to it earlier, the notion that the youth then had freedom to get to their work jobs, freedom to attend their athletic recreational endeavors, and then also likewise simply to connect with their friends and perhaps attend cultural events here and there. And they had that freedom to do it on their own time, on their own dime. They had the pass. And our program has been hugely successful. With Niagara region, there's another one, micro service transit with small little vehicles, as small as SUVs, going around the rural side, I think, of Machosin. Even Colwood, we're very much a suburban area. I would love if we could buy a few small buses and run a route, just call it. There's electric buses now with certain incentives. You can buy them for a reasonable price. They're relatively inexpensive to operate. That's an idea. And the Sault School District does have a couple electric buses, and I saw it the other day in front of Dunsmuir loading up. And I had to stop, and then I drove away, and it was quiet. So that was swell to see. But we need two things for buses to work: frequency and dependability of schedule.
To add on to that, one of the countries that has some of the best active transportation and actual transit as well is also the country with the happiest children, and that's the Netherlands. So taking, not trying to reinvent the wheel yourself, but taking the stuff out of their already book, because they've spent decades building their cities back to what they should be. Just not trying to reinvent the wheel, but trying to play by ear here. Maybe just copy what they have, because they have all the solutions that have created huge impacts already. Take that here and try to bring it here.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something very similar. In the introduction, you heard that I only recently got well, I haven't got it yet, actually, it's this month. But, and the reason I didn't drive was because I lived in the UK for a very long time in London, and if anyone's visited there would know that public transportation there, it just works really well. It is far more convenient than driving and a lot less costly. So that's what I think we need to do. We need to look to the other examples of where it's working, the Netherlands, the UK, and see how we can make it more convenient, because that's when people will start taking it, is when it will be more convenient to take public transportation or ride your bike than it is to take your car. That's when we'll see a change.
I don't know if you guys all heard about the commuter challenge just happened. So we had people racing cars versus bikes. So that was cool, get some awareness around there. And Bike to Work Week is coming up, and I forget the exact date, but the first week of June. Thank you. And so yeah, if we could do these fun events, people had a great time. The cyclists in town all won the race against the cars, because you didn't have to park your car and to pay the thing, go find the place to be. The finish line was at the legislature. So all of the cyclists versus cars, the cyclists won in town. In Langford, it was almost a tie. So I got there, and then a minute later, the e-bike came up, and we laughed about that because you have to be that far away now with an e-bike is faster than a regular bike, of course, but we can see how things are changing. Especially with e-bikes, you can go a lot further, a lot faster, and the car then becomes like this annoying thing that you have to park. And I was worried about my parking running out before I was done talking to all the people. So the bike people were happier, I'm telling you.
All right, thank you. And now I'd like to invite anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question. Please come up. We only have this one microphone. We could also, I could come down to you with this mic. Okay, yeah. I'll just get around. Okay, perfect.
Hi. This is loud. My question and suggestion for the high school students to come to council meetings is, being new to coming to council meetings myself, they are can be very intimidating, and public speaking is difficult at the best of times. There are other meetings that are even more interesting than a council committee meeting, in my opinion. So I'd like to suggest coming to a Sustainable Development Committee meeting or a Community Advisory Committee meeting as a place to start. And in Langford, you're not limited to time, because that's the other thing. When you're at a council meeting, you've got 3 minutes to get your point across. And sometimes you're very passionate and have more to say. So I would really encourage all councils to take advantage of sharing that information with students across the West Shore. Thank you.
And then I'll walk along this way.
Just while she's walking along, that's a great suggestion. I happen to know coming to our meetings, it's fantastic. The committee meetings are often more interesting and engaging and have more back and forth conversation instead of a very formal council meeting. And so lots of different options. The town of Colwood or city of Colwood has the environmental committee, and I think we've chosen you have different committees, you Royal have different committees. So if you find an area that interests you, that's a great place to start.
Okay. Hi there, I'm wondering if there's any ongoing research that is being encouraged by the CRD or any particular councils on the input in terms of bus weight on the roads and the turning of the bus wheels and the pollution that comes from particles off the tires. And I think that it would probably go along with the suggestion of smaller buses, less pounds per square foot per passenger on the roadway. That would help a heck of a lot with road repairs, and maybe the substance of which the roads are made would be more and more important as we go to electrification, in which I'm very much in favor. And I'm wondering if any research is being done into that, and I'm wondering if any thoughts are being given by councils of CRD or Transit, BC Transit or whatever, about these kinds of factors. Thank you.
That's a great question. I don't have a great answer, but I'll just start us off by saying that we don't have a lot of control over BC Transit. We have a tiny bit of representation there, but for example, there's nobody representing Langford at that table. The CRD might have somebody, and I think the Chosen has a representative for municipalities, and SUC represents other municipalities, but we don't have all of us represented there. And in terms of their own data, they do their own public engagement, so in terms of ridership and route planning, that's all BC Transit. And so we're actually in this together with you all and saying we want better transit service. Why do you take that stop out? Like, I gotta fill out the survey like everybody else and say that's not good enough. So research governance structure, so we're just working through that right now. So there's some exciting conversations trying to move the needle on transportation and bring it more regionally. But we're just at that sort of baby step of trying to get municipalities to agree to work together through the CRD.
Thanks for the question. The engineering folks have the old road load weights and that sort of stuff down. Pretty much, I don't have any qualification to speak to it specifically. However, it is a good question, and the recent media about the particles coming off our tires is part of what I mentioned earlier about the need for perhaps labeling or some kind of accountability to that sort of downstream life cycle use and end of use accountability, so that when you purchase a car, for instance, you understand the full depth and breadth of what you've purchased in terms of its weight on the climate or on the planet. Then from that point, there can be costs associated with it. Carbon tax, not very popular right now, I guess, is an example of how they try to redirect funds from one problem area to perhaps a solution area and how to generate that money. So accounting for all of that information has to start somewhere, and when we have the data, then you can start to make decisions. I don't know how else to frame it other than that at the municipal level, we do advocate to some degree, and that's about as far as we go. As Mary said, it's very difficult to make actual decisions directly affecting transit, but we do lobby. We talk to these folks, we bump into them at events, and I say things to them, and I'm hoping it's getting through. I would invite you to visit the Victoria Electric Vehicle Association table in the lobby, Glengarry, where Ted Davies will be there, and they have, or I might be there, and afterwards we can chat a little bit more about this, perhaps.
Can I just start with one thing about that plastic or the tire pollution? Because it came up at our council chambers, and our engineer was talking about using bioswales and the oil grid separator. So the engineers do try to address some of that. There is more awareness around tire particles getting into watersheds, and so at least the research, which I might throw that to the UVic area, the research really matters. So when we have our biologists and ecologists and other people coming out of the universities and Coastal College and Railroads University, they give us information that then we can make better decisions. So we do need the research side to come from those public institutions.
Alright, and so now we have time for one last question / comment here.
thanks to everyone on the panel for your interest in climate solutions. And I want to acknowledge Colwood has committed to climate leadership and with the climate action plan. David, you talked about retrofits, certainly a key source of greenhouse gas emissions. We desperately need to address that, but in Colwood and Langford, we have enormous new construction being built. And I'm wondering what it would take to make the West Shore or Colwood a model municipality for renewable energy. We know we need to make this transition to renewable energy, and our governments, senior levels are not are sort of absent from that, so maybe municipalities can lead. So my question, David, you had solar panels on your Royal Bay Bakery, so what would it take to make Colwood and perhaps the West Shore working together a model municipality or municipalities for renewable energy?
Yeah, Colwood's way ahead, good job.
Just small. Good question, Karen. I know that this initiative is coming to council and we're discussing it in the staff level, and I'm trying to figure out a path through. So one thing you can do, the public can do, is write letters, advocate strongly. Also, local government, yes, but and get involved, and let's try to get some projects actually happening. Literally, like any little thing, active, and while you're doing that, you can wear your sign about other issues or something. It's like protests. Perhaps protests becoming popular again, like they were in the 70s and 60s and 70s, and it was huge. I was at the Refuse the Cruise, this missile march in Ottawa in 1970 something, and that was quite grand. And I especially struck walking with actually a church group at the time past the UN headquarters building with the SWAT, the riot police lined up with their shields. I thought how ironic. I belonged to a church at the time that said, we didn't believe in war. So anyway, they weren't there for us. But this notion of advocating to industry, so developers, there's some good ones out there, and perhaps you can find them and you can encourage them to speak up more and work more. UDI, Urban Development Institute, represents developers. Local developer is president right now of that organization. And they're good people, and they also want to move forward, but it's a little bit of this balance between them pushing something that costs more and the pressures to lower the costs and the profitability that has to continue. And they're making lots of money, don't let them fool you. They like to talk about their tight margins, yeah. So I don't have a direct specific answer except to keep moving forward with the pressure you've got going and advocate when you can. I trust others, they always have great answers here today. This is wonderful.
It's going to take a lot of resources, which unfortunately local governments don't have. So we need to advocate to those provincial and federal bodies, but really we also, as local governments, we are advocating for ourselves. So something we're looking for is more stable funding. So if they're not going to give us anything but property tax, then doing something really innovative is very, very challenging. But if we could get stable funding, reliable year after year, that we could use to budget, because budgeting decisions need to be able to go long term. And right now, everything's that's coming from a grant, you can't count on it. And in our staff, we don't have a grant writer. Everything's kind of like rush off the side of the desk. We do the best we can. So that funding part at the local level is so hard. So we have to work together with the nonprofits, the community organizations, and the local governments to advocate better to other industry and higher levels of government where the money is.
And as Mary said, there's few resources, so I think by us as the West Shore municipal councils, we can really learn and take advantage of what each other does. I know Colwood's doing a lot to look at the carbon emissions of its buildings, and so hopefully New Royal doesn't have to do this. Well, we might do the same, but we can look to see what they learned and then kind of copy it. I think that's what we're tending more to do, given the lack of time and resources for each of us individually. All
Right, now thank you everyone in the audience, thank you to our panelists. This is the end of our session. It's been a super interesting discussion, and I think we're all really looking forward to see some real climate actions taken in all of our municipalities here. I'd like to thank our elders, Shirley, Alphonse, and Brother Rick, from SSHU for honoring us with their wisdom and knowledge. Thank you to each of our city council members, David Grove, Allison McKenzie, Steve Gray, and Wagner for your dedication and interest. We're really honored that you come here to share and listen to us today. Thank you, Colin, for representing our generation so well on this panel. We really have the most to lose from this climate crisis, and it will eventually fall on our shoulders to continue all of this work that is dealing with this crisis. And it's so important that we work together with parents, grandparents, teachers, the community at large, all the local nonprofits to really make a change. So thank you for being here. Next, I want to thank all the organizers and volunteers for today's event. I know it's been a ton of work over the past few months to make today happen. So thank you all our organizers. And finally, I would like to thank everyone in the audience for showing up and being here, sharing and learning and being part of this whole experience, this whole event in our discussion. It's so important for all of us in the community to get together and share, and I think this is really what gives me hope for the future. So thank you. Please give a round of applause to yourselves. Next in the theater we have at 2:40